It's been such an interesting year, and I can't wait to kick this off and get started. I want to first, as we welcome this illustrative group, is say we have maintained all social protocols and social distancing and healthcare. And so at this point, I think it's okay. We're about 7 feet apart from each other. We've worn our mask the entire time of being together or in the same room. And I think it's okay now, Mary Jo, if we remove our masks?
Sure.
Okay. You know, I've gotten to the point where, quite frankly, I'm kind of used to wearing a mask. And so when we get through this, and we will get through it, it's going to, you know, I'm going to probably miss it at some points. You know, we have an amazing group today assembled for you. And I'd like to thank the Trad Business Journal for working with us on this. It's been a collaborative group. And it's been something that we think that the city needs, the county needs, and the Triad needs is to understand what is going on and where are we going together towards tomorrow. So I'd like to thank Mary Jo Cagle, who's the current Chief Operating Officer of Cone Health Systems, and Scott Baxter, who's the Chairman and CEO of Kontoor Brands, most famously known as the owners of Wrangler and Lee brands, Rockin' Republic. Thank you, Scott. Mary Jo.
Thank you, Zach.
And visiting with us virtually is UNCG Chancellor Frank Gilliam. Frank, you're an awesome guy. I wish you were here with us, but I understand why you need to be at home, and so glad that you could join us today.
Thanks, Zach. Glad to be here.
Okay, so together towards tomorrow. One of the things that we want to do in downtown Greensboro is always think about the future. We don't forget the past, we don't forget where we are today, but it's where we're going tomorrow that matters, that we can try to help move Greensboro forward. And so, Mary Jo, I got to start with you. You know, we've learned so much the last year. Can you give us some insight into what you think is one of the main things that the healthcare industry at Cone Health has learned and what we should be thinking about as we move forward?
So one of the biggest things we at Cone Health have learned is how to really leverage our partners in the community. So as we all remember when this hit us a year ago, we were overcome by the lack of PPE, personal protective equipment that we had, because our supply chain was so disrupted. And we were overwhelmed by how our partners in the community stepped up to help us meet that need. And so Kontoor helped us.
We were proud to be a partner with you as always, and really happy to help, and thank you for all the support and the partnership. It's been a lot of fun, actually.
So that was a great partnership that stepped up and immediately began to help us. And other manufacturers in the area have stepped up. We've had a manufacturer in the area who has stepped up and learned all of the specifications necessary by OSHA to meet our requirements, to be able to help us to go into our COVID wards and help us. So, but those aren't the only partnerships that we've had. So we've had partnerships that have come in and helped feed our staff to lift them up. We've had such innovation that has occurred. And so it has been bi-directional, right? People who've come and lifted us up and helped meet our needs. And in return, we've been able to support businesses that really, as we all know, because things have really closed down, we've been able to support those businesses as well. So I think that's the big thing that we've learned, the top of our list. But the list has been long, Zach. We've learned about agility and how quickly we need to move and change. We've learned about the power of digital services to our patients when they don't need to be out gathering in crowds, that we can deliver healthcare services digitally. We have improved the monitoring of our supply chain. So really, the list of the things we've learned have been great, but number one on that list is the importance of our partnerships and how they've grown.
You know, that's something that Greensboro I think, has done so well in is partnerships. It's something, when you think of the philanthropy of our citizens, the partnerships, public-private partnerships, I think that's a huge thing. And you mentioned a story earlier this morning about almost 8,000 cards that folks that are coming through the lines and just thanking the frontline workers. And that's just a community, the Greensboro community, understanding and appreciating all the healthcare workers that are trying to keep us healthy.
Yeah, so at the holidays, we did have that, and it came from UNCG, from our high schools, from various faith groups that just wrote thank you cards at the holidays. And then various businesses gave small gifts, little candles, soaps, just small gifts. And we were able to, I stood with other leaders at clocks as they checked out after they got off shift.
Oh, yeah.
And gave these cards and these just small little gifts. And the look of appreciation and sometimes tears in people's eyes after they finished those shifts. One of the places I did this was at our COVID hospital over on Green Valley. So that kind of appreciation and partnership is just huge. And I think it won't be forgotten, and it's something we really can build on.
So partnerships go beyond just businesses and healthcare or nonprofits and businesses and healthcare. It goes to an individual person just giving the slightest little gift of thanks. And so when we think about partnerships, there is no limitation.
Correct.
Chancellor Gilliam, when you and I spoke a couple of weeks ago, I told you I was amazed and excited how well UNCG has done with the pandemic, with your student base, because a few colleges and universities got into a little bit of trouble. What have you seen, and what have y'all done through this pandemic, and what do you see coming maybe in the fall of this year?
Well, I think Mary Jo touched on an important concept, and that's community. I think we were able to develop a culture of shared faith. And I think that's true here in the city of Greensboro. That is that what affects one affects us all. And nowhere is this more obvious than it has been with this virus, that it doesn't matter who you are, where you live, what religion you practice, what color you are, the virus touches us all. And as a result, all of us have to come together to fight it. And I think one of the reasons we've been successful is that we've been able to imbue our campus with a sense of community, that we could only move forward together, that we could only find ways to keep our lives somewhat on track if we did so together. And all it takes is one person or one group of people to slip up and the whole thing comes down. So I think this concept of community, and Mary Jo talked about how the community supported frontline workers. And I know Scott's company was critical in helping to pitch in where it was needed, whether it was in PPE, personnel, staffing, money. And I think that that's one of the things that's a hallmark of Greensboro. And one of the things that makes it a special place is that we'll do a real sense of community here. As an outsider, so to speak, I've only been here 6 years. This one of the things that has really struck my wife Jackie and I is the sense of community. So our students, our faculty, our staff, all banded together. We learned a lot about management, as I'm sure Scott and Mary Jo did, and managing in a crisis is sort of trial by fire, but it allowed us to think about how we engineer and re-engineer our processes and procedures. And we've learned a lot during this pandemic about our organization, but also about the community. We're not out of the woods yet as we remind our campus community. We still have some months to go to get to May when we end this semester. So we hope we can continue this sense of community. As you mentioned, Zach, it's not always the case on college campuses. We're asking young people to be responsible, but that's part of being a community member, is doing your fair share and understanding that your fate is shared with others. And as long as we keep that in mind as a broader Greensboro community, then we'll be okay going forward.
So Zach, just a quick comment, because I think Mary Jo and Frank bring up something really fantastic about community. And I think we've been through so much together in such a short period of time that I think there's a real pent-up demand within companies, within community leaders, within just people wanting to get involved, that I think we're going to see a tremendous acceleration of community involvement and people supporting the community and supporting each other when we come out of this. I think empathy is something that I think is really important as we come through this, and I believe the community is going to have a tremendous amount of empathy. I think we're going to work much better together, and I think the partnerships that we've developed from this, I mean, I knew everybody and was really good friends with Frank and have gotten to really know Mary Jo through this process, and I think just even coming out of this, it's going to give us the opportunity to connect our organizations, 3 big organizations here in downtown Greensboro, and you bringing us together here today to talk about that is really important, and I really appreciate it, and thrilled to be on the same panel with Frank and Mary Jo. But I really think that at the end, this is going to accelerate in a really positive way.
You know, you run a global headquartered business. People I think sometimes in Greensboro forget about the assets that we have, the wonderful health care, the fact that, Chancellor Gilliam and Chancellor Martin, among others, we're a college town that doesn't realize we're a college town. You, Scott, run one of our largest employee base, one of the most historic businesses we have in Greensboro. We're fortunate that you are located in downtown Greensboro. But I know how much people mean to you when you're looking at your organization. And if you're talking about empathy from the top, I can only imagine what is exuding through your team. Can you talk about what y'all have done and a little bit expand on that?
Yeah, we take a tremendous amount of pride in our involvement in the community. So a lot of our folks are involved in different community functions, whether it be here at DGI, we have an executive on your board, the Chamber of Commerce, just different various charities throughout the community. We sponsor quite a few of those charities, whether it be food banks that we've gotten very involved in as a company going forward. And one of the things that I think is really important, one of the things that I think we lose sight of a little bit, is that we feel a great responsibility as a company to bring jobs to Greensboro. Jobs make a difference. They make a change in people's lives. And sometimes people forget that we're here a little bit. They realize that we have a headquarters downtown. It has about 700 people in it, but we have 6 facilities on this street. We have a SSC right over here across the street with 140 people. Our company was founded literally across the street here in 1904 as Hudson Overall Company. So it's fantastic to be that close. But we have a headquarters with 700 people. We have a store with 10 people. We have a tech center with 150 people. We have our design center in Rev Mills, and we have a photo lab downtown. So our folks can't wait to come back downtown. Throughout the entire year that we've had this pandemic, we have been hiring people. We've actually hired a lot of people. So when they come back, in addition to the folks that we have, and come back into the community, they're going to do several things. They're going to come back and work in the community, come back and be downtown. They're going to spend money in this area with all the proprietors. They're going to go ahead and support the arts and the functions, and they're going to get involved in the charities with our folks that are already involved in a pretty significant way throughout the triad. So I think there's really a great opportunity for us to come out of this as we've all played offense in a significant way and really set a standard for Greensboro, for the rest of the country, on how things are done and how a partnership truly works between healthcare, education, business, and the downtown groups like DGI that support those folks and bring them together.
I'm sitting here, and when we had a preliminary call, I took so many notes, it was unbelievable. But I think when we talk about, the partnerships and how do partnerships happen, whether it's professional or even personal partnerships, it's built on trust. And what I'm hearing from y'all and Frank is that the trust that we're building together through this pandemic will carry forward tremendous partnerships in the future.
Absolutely.
So it really is together towards tomorrow.
Yeah.
One of the things that we talked about in the preliminary call, and what I'm hearing is, Mary Jo, y'all have hired people. Scott, you've hired people.
A lot.
Chancellor Gilliam, you continue to hire people at UNCG. So Mary Jo, maybe you can start, and Scott and Frank, y'all are recruiting talent through a pandemic. What can Greensboro do, and how can we help you recruit that talent? Or even if you're hiring, there's other people hiring. That means they might come try to get your people. How can we help you retain your talent in this pandemic and in the future?
So we absolutely have been hiring. And I'll give you a great example. We've needed to hire nurses because we've had volumes of patients. But more than that, as you guys know, we've been doing testing for COVID, the vaccination clinics that we're doing. And all of that has to be supported by pharmacists and by IT. And so, yes, we've been hiring. And so one of the things we've been looking at is what are the flexibilities from scheduling that we can give folks? What is the flexibility of what we could do? How much can people do from home versus how much they need to do on site, right? And so being able to look at how broad can our search be? How can we showcase Greensboro and let people know how great this region is? So that's one of the things you can help us do, right? And the educational opportunities for people who, in healthcare, of course, there's a certain standard you have to reach to be able to do our jobs, and how we can help them get a master's degree or pursue even higher levels of education. So being a college town is a great thing. So they are right here and they can pursue that. So those are things that we can partner together on. And actually we already have our chief academic officer is already in a partnership with Frank to help us look at some of those different things that we can do. We are forever throwing our net wider to try to attract that talent to Cone Health. And so it's fascinating the number of people we have hired over the past year and how many positions are posted right now, even in the pandemic. Because healthcare is an ever-growing field, and the need to provide care to our community is great. I will tell you an area that's growing for us is the field of health equity, looking to our underserved communities and making certain that we have the right care for the communities that have traditionally not received care. And so finding people whose passion is in that area of service. So I think we have begun to really expand from what has traditionally just been care at the hospital. So I think that's a new area. And so finding people who have a passion around service that you talked about.
One of the things that, of course, we've learned during the pandemic is where our systems have gaps. And whether it's healthcare or education or whatever it may be. And I know that we have a lot of faculty and students working on health equity and health disparities. But one of the things that we're working on as a community is around broadband access. And what we've learned also during this pandemic is that there are swaths of our urban and rural communities here in city limits of Greensboro, but also in Guilford County, that don't have broadband access or don't have reliable access. So we're working with Guilford County, with the city of Greensboro, with Guilford Public Schools, with North Carolina A&T, to try to develop the infrastructure that allows for access to broadband from a variety of places in our community that are underserved. You can't get telehealth or telemedicine if you can't get online. And I know, Mary Jo, you all have put out hotspots the way we have as well, but it's not as good as doing what we should do in the first place, and that's build the broadband infrastructure out. Another point I wanted to raise, that just to piggyback on what people are talking about hiring and downtown in particular. So we have, during the pandemic of all things, we opened up offices downtown on Elm Street. So we're continuing to invest in downtown, but we continue to hire faculty and staff. And part of the sell for us, as I'm sure it is for Mary Jo and Scott, is that Greensboro is a livable community. And one of the things that I believe strongly we have to commit to is making sure that Greensboro has a vibrant downtown. I don't know of any really vibrant city that doesn't have a downtown or an urban core that is alive with retail shops, with restaurants, with entertainment. And I think that we all need to understand that our ability to attract top talent will only be enhanced by having a very vibrant business community downtown, cultural arts community downtown. And this is something I think we can all come together around.
You know, I think there's a really interesting fact here, specifically for us at Kontoor. We have had zero issue hiring and bringing people to Greensboro. So we hire executives from all over the globe, and we bring them here, whether it's domestically or internationally, in relatively zero issue at all. And I'll tell you exactly why. These folks are coming from very expensive parts of the world. They can't wait to get here. They can't wait to purchase a home, be involved in a community. This is an open and welcoming community. Some of the places that they come from are very expensive, maybe don't have the nice weather that we have. They can't get into the schools that they want to here. But the thing that's beautiful about that for us and for the community is that when we bring in an executive like that, and when Frank, like he says, brings in, you know, professors and what have you, and Mary Jo, you bring in all your healthcare executives, they participate in the community. They buy homes, they pay taxes, they use all the services downtown. They really bring a vibrancy. And when they come to our company, they learn about community involvement. So they see their peer group around them that's very involved in the community in different aspects, and they want to get involved. So we take a great responsibility in the fact that we need to grow our business for our shareholders, but also when we talk about shareholders, we think a community as stakeholders. And so we want to do that for this community too, because at the end of the day, it's where we all live, it's where our kids go to school, it's where we shop, it's where our friends are. So collectively, you know, we can make it better, but no issue at all with Greensboro bringing executives in. And I think that that's been something that people have asked me before, and they've been surprised by my answer.
You know, I've been around for 20 years, and I've heard a mixed bag of answers. So I love hearing that answer, and I'll go with it. So let's stick with you in the sense of, you know, we think about success. You know, we want to be the best, you know, healthcare system. We want to be the best organization. We want to be the best college and university. What does success in Greensboro look like from a Kontoor perspective or business community perspective? And what can we do together to achieve that success for Greensboro?
I think the opportunity for greater participation in things like that, so that the executives in the community get to know each other and talk about the ideas. So spending time preparing for this with Mary Jo and Frank is always beneficial for me. Frank had a great idea. I just love this, and I've been thinking about it when we got together last time. He talked a little bit about, you know, they've done some things downtown here recently and brought some assets down here. Why don't we all come together and bring some things together where we're collectively talking and in the same building? I think ideas like that are really significant. But I do think that within any community or any business community, we could do a better job of bringing our executives together and talking collectively about how to do more good in the community and how we can support and help each other. How we do that, the venue that we do that in, I don't know, but maybe it's something we can gather a few more folks in this community and talk about.
I know we'd be certainly happy to host that in downtown Greensboro.
Yeah.
Mary Jo, what do you think? What does success look like in your eyes from any perspective?
Well, so for us, success in healthcare for us, of course, is helping lead us to a healthier community. And I think for us is partnering with the city and the county to help us create healthier spaces, right? More sidewalks for people to walk on, areas for children to play in, a decrease in food deserts in areas of our community. So how do we partner to really create a city that's environment creates a healthier community. So that's what we're really all about, is how do we go from just treating sick people to help move toward creating a healthy community. So that's what real success looks like. And that's what we're trying to create, that mindset of, yeah, we're here to take care of you when you're sick, but we'd really rather move upstream and help you and your family stay healthy. And to really do that, we've all got to partner together to make that happen.
Absolutely, and spread that message.
Yes.
Chancellor, what do you think about success in Greensboro and UNC Greensboro and the future?
That's an interesting question, Zach. I've been thinking about that. And a few things. One, I think that we have to convince our young people that Greensboro is a place that they can live and build a career once they graduate college. We have 5 higher ed institutions in the city. We graduate tens of thousands. I mean, we graduate several thousand every year, as does A&T. We probably graduate 15,000 or 20,000 college students in this area every year. So retaining that talent is important. Also, the so-called boomerang people, encouraging people who left Greensboro to come back and live. And I like Scott's metaphor: you live, you work, you pay taxes, you shop. It all ties together. I don't think we need to try to be like any other place, but we need to be the best version of us. And a word that I like to refer to, or concept, is authenticity. We have to authentically be Greensboro. And I think that we've lost sight of that a little bit. Everybody wants to make it this or that, or the new this or the new that city. And I think that what we have to do is chart our own path that is authentically Greensboro. And the way that happens is by the major stakeholders coming together. And as Scott's right, and as Mary Jo, that we need forums, and not, I'm going to sound a little critical here, but I don't mean it that way, which is not just banquets and galas where we come and slap each other on the back, but we need to develop the informal networks that allow for ideas, good or bad, to be vetted, and that we can sit around the fireplace, the campfire, the table, whatever it is, and hash it out and say, gee, Scott, that's a great idea. I hadn't thought about that. Maybe I'd be interested in that. Or, gee, Gilliam, that's a really dumb idea. Let's move on to the next one. But at least we're out there spinning out ideas. We don't, for my money, and probably it's true, and I know Mary Jo and Scott fight this all the time, is silos within their organization. But I believe there's silos within the community. And we have to find a way to establish crosstalk between those silos. The reason that we ought to do that is that once information is shared, it provides points of joint leverage. And you can end up being stronger by being partners with somebody than you can on your own. And people think that they're being stronger because they're hoarding information. They think that leads to control and power, but it actually doesn't. It does the exact opposite. It's a diminution of power. Joint activity allows you to leverage and create scale and scope. And so I hope when we come out of this, I hope one of the lessons learned is that people care about this community, and that we need to be committed to really trying to be the best version of us that we can be.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Frank.
I actually agree with everything that Frank said. I mean, back to that, sense of who we really are and the identity that we create for ourselves when we come out of this will be really important. How we support each other coming out of this will be really important. But then I think back to how do we get that together and harness all the intellect that we captured through this and all the stuff that came about during this really awful year. But yet, at the end of the day, we all really survived. And the folks that played offense and thought really intelligently about their world, whether it's a business or a healthcare or educational, they did really well, and we need to help and support them as this evolves to do even better. Because it just, like Frank said, when we share like that, it's just going to make Greensboro better. That's why, I completely 100% root for all the success that could absolutely happen at Cone, and all the success and everything that's happening at UNCG, plus our other educational, institutions. And the things that you're doing in downtown, I'm always, whenever I'm with you, Zach, I'm always asking you, what's happening downtown, what's growing, what's happening, because I'm thrilled and excited about the things that are going to happen down here for our community. So, yeah.
So this will be our last question, and then, but take a moment if you want, just to expand and give whatever message you want to the community too. But I use a phrase with my team saying, "How are we going to make lemonade out of this lemon situation we've been in the last year?" And so, how are we going to make lemonade going forward? How are we going to? I think Chancellor Gilliam used the term slingshot out of this, because I know Greensboro has an opportunity here. And so, Mary Jo, what do you think about how we can come together? I know partnerships, but can you expand on that? And what do you want folks to know that will be tuning in to us?
So first, I would say there's already some lemonade being made. And I would offer that we need to find some people to share that cool lemonade with and understand we've done more than survived. We've thrived. And by thrive, I mean, have a medical background. Thrive means that you're growing and happy and successful. So we're not just still alive at the end of this terrible year. We're growing, we're happy and successful. So look for the places where that's true. How did that happen? And let's spread that all around. So how do you make lemonade? You take something that's sour and you add sweetness. You squeeze it and get something sweet and add sugar to it. And you mix it and you've made something great. So there are places, and I'll just use Cone Health because I know it best, where we have taken what we felt overwhelmed about and we went out and studied and we said, okay, we need to be more agile. We can begin to innovate and do things faster. Add this, I'll take how we did digital health and virtual visits. We actually moved that forward and went from doing less than 5% of our visits to doing, last summer, almost 50% of our visits by virtual health. So we did that in 2 months. That would have taken 5 years on the path we were on. We accelerated our growth. I would say Greensboro, we have the opportunity to accelerate our business plans and grow. Necessity is the mother of invention, right? And so that's putting the sweetness. We have the opportunity to lock arms and say, what can we do at the Tanger Center when it's getting ready to open that we hadn't even thought about doing? What are some things we can do in open spaces that we hadn't thought about doing before? We've learned so much. How do we apply what we've learned? I'm so excited about how far we've come in technology at Cone Health in just the past year. It has put us further on our road And I bet every business in this community can say the same thing. So that's what I'd say to Greensboro. We're going to thrive, not just survive.
I love the passion that you have too. I can sense it being in
yeah.
the same room with you, even though we're far apart, but I can feel it. And I got to tell you that having spent a large amount of time the last 2 or 3 years at Cone Health, specifically in the Cancer Center, you've got amazing people that work. You've hired great people. What they do for us when we're well or when we're not well has been amazing. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your comments, and thank you for your leadership. It is amazing to go that fast to 50%. That's amazing. Healthcare is a big ship to turn. Mr. Baxter?
You know, Zach, I think we have to lead by example. And at Kontoor, we're doing that. We've brought all of our headquarter type facilities throughout the United States and have now consolidated them into Greensboro. We most recently did it with our retail operations. We moved them out of Pennsylvania during the pandemic, and we brought the executives and the team, and we're moving them down here as we speak. So all of our folks are now concentrated here, and having everybody together is a real benefit for us. But I think it's an example of we're behind Greensboro. It's where we live. It's our community. These are our stakeholders. As well as we do, we want Greensboro to do just as well or even better, because it's only going to support our initiatives. So we feel a great responsibility to the community, feel a great responsibility to our shareholders and our stakeholders, but we collectively like to talk about doing that together. So we will continue to lead by example and do that, and we'll continue to work hard to grow our business, because when we do, we have a real philosophy about pouring back into the community. So the better we do, we think there's more that we can do for the community.
You know, Scott, I got to ask you one question that Chancellor Gilliam asked you, because I think it's important for people to hear. What you just said is you're bringing more jobs to Greensboro. Mm-hmm. And so Chancellor Gilliam said, you know, there's a fear that Kontoor might leave Greensboro.
Sure.
And I know how you feel about that, but I would love for you just to let folks know.
Yeah, I mean, I said it earlier, we were headquartered across the street in 1904. You know, as the CEO of a big company in Greensboro, I could never look my associates and all my employees in the eye who have worked here for generations. Sometimes 2 and 3 and 4 generations have worked here. Sometimes, and right now we have 3 generations that actually work in our offices together, and say that we're going to up and move. Why would we do that? We have so much support from this community. I would disappoint our employees so greatly. We are entrenched here. We're involved in the community. And just as much, I wouldn't disrupt families and situations and whatever it may be for something like that, because we've always received such an outpouring of support. And when we started as a publicly traded company, the support that we received from everybody, from the government, from the city, from the state, from local, from everyone, was just incredible. And you can never forget that. You have to be thankful for it, and you have to go ahead and do good from it. So this is our home. This will be our home. And we are planning to be here for a long, long time, and we're planning to be extremely successful in pouring that back in. But you can count on us being in Greensboro.
You know, that's awesome news, and I know how passionate you are about Greensboro and the Triad as a whole, and I'm so thankful that you were willing to share those thoughts with us, and I'll continue to wear my Wranglers and my Lees as well. And one of the things you mentioned about the city, the county, and the state, how and the community, how we wanted you to stay and we were there for you, but you didn't really ask us for anything. You asked us to just support your business. And folks when you're buying Wrangler or Lee or whatever at the store downtown, you're supporting local and the 700 plus families and the many more that work at Kontoor Brands.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate that, but I have a philosophy as a CEO that relative to how you operate and think about yourself in a community, I have a philosophy that you don't ask for tax breaks and abatements and all those kinds of things, because it just takes away from the community that needs it. Those dollars are precious within a community, and precious really right now in a pandemic. So we, as a leadership team at Kontoor, need to run a really good business. And that's how you can judge us, and that's how our shareholders can judge us. We do not need to step into the community and ask the community to go ahead and support us. Those dollars need to go to the people that need them. We'll run a really good business. That's a partnership.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. Thank you for being here. I know you're busy as well. Thank you. Chancellor Gilliam.
Well, first, Zach, thanks for putting on this conversation this morning. Greatly appreciated, and always appreciate listening to Mary Jo and Scott. It always gives me food for thought from a leadership point of view. I think I'd make 3 points. One is like Scott's commitment to Greensboro. We've been here 129 years, and I suspect we'll be here for 129 more. And our university motto is service. And that translates into community engagement. And it's not the university telling the community what to do, but it is the university working with the community and valuing community knowledge as much as, excuse me, campus knowledge. So service is our motto. Community engagement is a priority for us at the university and part of our mission. Second point I wanted to make is around this concept that you mentioned, Zach, that we talked about before about slingshot. And Mary Jo and Scott spoke to this in different ways, which is, I'd like Mary Jo, you said, we're not just trying to survive, we're trying to thrive. And I think what's happened in many communities is that they just have hunkered down and just hope they can somehow make it through. And I think our job as community leaders is to say, what do we want Greensboro to look like 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now? And how do we get there? And then third, one of the ways we get there is around the thought leadership that folks who play an important role in the community can engage in. And that is, how can we think together about novel ways to both grow our businesses, but also deepen our connection to Greensboro? And forums like these are one of the ways that we can do it. And I certainly believe we need to continue to have these conversations together in ways that are productive. The better we know each other, the easier it is to work with each other. You know, Cone Health called us up and said, do you have a place where we can do COVID tests? Next thing you know, a week later, we've got hundreds of people coming up to one of our parking garages, and while the university was on a break, and getting drive-through tests. And having those connections and those relationships makes it much easier to work together. So I'd leave you with those 3 thoughts. And again, Zach, thank you for indulging me this morning. I wish I could be there in person, but you know, us old guys have to kind of take it easy some days.
Thank you, Chancellor. I'm glad you were able to Zoom in or with us today, and thank you for your time. And I look forward to seeing you soon. I know we will. So that concludes our roundtable discussion today. And one of the things I know that I'll take as we go forward is together we'll thrive towards tomorrow. And thrive is the word of the day for me. Thank y'all so much for being here. Thank you so much for chiming in. Now let's mask up, because as Mary Jo said, we want a healthy community, so let's be healthy together. Thank you.
Thanks, Zach.